The Dark Brotherhood, Tamriel's deadliest assassins, are somehow one of the most likable factions in video games. This raises a question. Why do players love an organization whose primary hobby is contract murder? That's what we're unpacking today. By the end, we'll see why evil in Oblivion isn't just fun to play, it's emotionally compelling. Let's get started. The allure of the forbidden. The Dark Brotherhood is not on the same recruitment drive as the Fighters Guild or the Mages Guild. Those organizations are about as subtle as a troll in a china shop. You walk into the guild hall, talk to the receptionist, sign your name, and boom, you're in. They practically throw quest markers at you. The Brotherhood? Completely different. You can play 40 hours of Oblivion without even realizing they exist. There's no join here sign outside of their sanctuary, no recruiter standing in the market square. Their recruitment method is more exclusive. Here's how it works. You kill someone innocent. Not a bandit, not a danger, not a goblin, an innocent civilian. You go to sleep anywhere, and when you wake up, you're not alone. Standing over you is Lucien Lachance, speaker for the Dark Brotherhood. He's dressed in a dark cloak, bathed in shadow, and speaking in that slow, careful voice that's equal parts comforting and unnerving.
I am Lucien Lachance, speaker for the Dark Brotherhood.
Side note, Wes Johnson voices like 50% of the characters in this game, and he's absolutely phenomenal. There's no, congratulations, you've unlocked a new guild. It's, we've been watching you, and we think you're ready. This is where psychology kicks in. What the game's doing here is exploiting something called the forbidden fruit effect. The phenomenon where restricting access to something makes it more desirable. A 2008 study by Dr. Sarah M. Coyne found that when teens were told not to watch certain violent TV shows, they were more interested in it. Scarcity creates value. And scarcity isn't just about physical goods, it works on experiences too. That's one of the reasons why prohibition in the US didn't kill alcohol consumption. It made speakeasies more exciting. Drinking in a dimly lit back room, knowing you weren't supposed to be there, was all half the fun. Same with piracy. The Golden Age pirates like Blackbeard were brutal criminals. But thanks to romantic retellings in taverns, pamphlets, and later novels, they became folk heroes. People didn't admire their crimes, they admired the audacity of living outside the law. The Dark Brotherhood recruitment works the same way. You're not just joining a guild, you're being inducted into a secret society that most of Cyrodiil doesn't even know exists. And you got in not because you followed the rules, but because you broke them. Even in-game, it's clear this exclusivity is part of the appeal. The Fighters Guild might give you a contract to kill a few rats in someone's basement. The Brotherhood gives you a ritual murder, and a promise of a great reward if you prove yourself. From a game design perspective, that delayed, secretive reveal makes the Brotherhood feel special before you've even done a single quest for them. From a psychological perspective, it's a perfect example of scarcity making something desirable. Not in spite of its moral darkness, but because of it. The seductive aesthetic. If the Dark Brotherhood were just a bunch of guys in potato sacks stabbing people in alleyways, they wouldn't be half as appealing. But they're not. They have style. When you first enter the Cheydinhal Sanctuary, it's like stepping into another world. The door whispers at you,
"What is the color of night?"
It's ornate, creepy as hell, and so cool. Shadows cling to the walls, broken only by flickering candlelight. The architecture feels old and secret, with carved stones and deep alcoves. The Brotherhood's emblem, the bloody black hand, marks you as one of them. Even their armor is designed for allure. Black leather trimmed with red, hugging close to the body. Part assassin's uniform, part ceremonial garb. In Oblivion, this isn't just protective clothing. It's a visual badge of honor. Lucien Lachance himself is the perfect example of this aesthetic at work. He doesn't yell, he doesn't threaten. he speaks softly in careful, poetic sentences, giving every word the weight of a sacred vow.
An opportunity to join our rather unique family.
He doesn't make you feel like a thug. He makes you feel like an artist. This matters because history and media show us that presentation can make almost anything seem attractive. Consider the following. The Godfather turned the American mafia into tragic, honor-bound patriarchs. Peaky Blinders took street gangs and dressed them in razor, sharp three-piece suits. John Wick gave us a society of assassins operating like elite hotel clientele, complete with gold coins and tailored suits. The violence in these stories isn't hidden. It's stylized, choreographed, even fetishized. And when you wrap brutality in beauty, people focus less on what's happening and more on how it's happening. Psychology backs this up. There's a body of research on the dark triad traits, narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy, showing that people who exhibit them can still be seen as attractive or trustworthy in short-term contexts. A 2023 study published in Evolutionary Psychology found that individuals with high dark triad traits gained others' trust through facial attractiveness alone, even when their behavior was morally questionable. In other words, the Dark Brotherhood works because it doesn't look like a den of killers. It looks like an ancient, exclusive order. You're not being asked to get your hands dirty in a back alley. You're being invited into a candlelit cathedral to conduct a sacred rite. And that aesthetic does more than make you feel comfortable with what you're doing. It makes you feel proud of it. Murder as a game mechanic. In most of Oblivion, killing an innocent is a straight-up penalty. Omnipotent guards will sprint at you from 3 streets away, slap you with a bounty, and either haul you off to jail or kill you on the spot. The game's morality system is pretty clear. Innocent blood equals bad news. But the Dark Brotherhood flips that script completely. Here, murder isn't punished, it's the point. And more than that, it's not treated as mindless acts of violence. Each contract you're given is designed like a puzzle with multiple solutions, and the more creative or discreet you are, the better the reward. Take Whodunit, easily one of the most famous Brotherhood contracts in the game, maybe even the series. I actually did a whole video on that, it might be worth a watch. You're locked in a manor with 5 guests, all strangers to you, and told to kill them all without anyone discovering you're the murderer. You can isolate and kill them one by one, manipulate conversations to turn guests against each other so they kill for you, or you could frame the kills as accidents with poisoned food. The setup isn't go kill these people, it's how can you make this happen in the most elegant, least traceable way possible. Or consider accidents happen when you're tasked with killing a man named Bainlin. You can just stab him, sure. But the bonus reward comes if you loosen a mounted head in his upstairs study, so it falls and crushes him when he sits below. It's gruesome, but also undeniably clever. And the assassinated man flips the formula by staging a fake murder, letting you collaborate with your victim to fool his enemies. The variety in approach makes assassination feel less like repetitive violence and more like bespoke problem solving. This is where moral disengagement comes in. In 1986, psychologist Albert Bandura identified mechanisms by which people can distance themselves from the morality of their actions, one of which is euphemistic labeling. The Dark Brotherhood doesn't just call it murder, it calls it fulfilling a contract or delivering Sithis' justice. By reframing the act and rewarding your ingenuity, the game bypasses your internal moral compass. A 2009 study in cyber psychology and behavior found that players are more likely to perform immoral acts in games when the context encourages role adoption rather than raw violence. In the Brotherhood, you're not killing random NPCs. You're a professional following the tenets of an ancient order using skill and cunning. The way the Brotherhood values stealth and artistry over brute force mirrors real-world assassin traditions. Feudal Japan's ninjas were trained not just in combat, but in deception, disguise, and sabotage. A perfect mission was one where the target was eliminated without anyone realizing the assassin had been there at all. Similarly, in Renaissance Italy, assassinations carried out by political agents or the Order of Assassins were often orchestrated during public gatherings, or in elaborate ways that both concealed the killer and sent a symbolic message. The Dark Brotherhood taps directly into that tradition. The reward isn't just gold, it's the satisfaction of having done the job right. By making murder a mechanical puzzle and rewarding style over savagery, Oblivion transforms what should be the darkest part of the game into its most engaging set of quests. And once you start thinking of these contracts as artful problem solving rather than killing innocent people, your moral compass doesn't just waver, it starts pointing toward the nearest sanctuary. The family you chose. The moment you step into the Cheydinhal Sanctuary, you're not treated like a stranger. You're treated like a sibling who's just come home. Ochiva greets you warmly, calling you brother or sister from your very first meeting. Vincente Voltieri offers to share his vampiric gift with you, not out of necessity, but because he wants you to be stronger. Tainava tells you personal stories about his past, trusting you with details he wouldn't share outside the family. Mirage Dar is an ass, though. Compare that to the Fighters Guild. Your first job is killing rats in someone's basement. Most members barely acknowledge you until you've done hours of grunt work. Nobody calls you brother, you're just associate until you climb the ranks. The Brotherhood skips the bureaucracy and offers instant inclusion. From a psychological standpoint, the Brotherhood is exploiting what social scientists call the need to belong, a fundamental human motivation to form and maintain strong, stable relationships. Roy Baumeister and Mark Leary's 1995 study in Psychological Bulletin argues that belonging is as essential to well-being as food and shelter. This isn't just kindness, it's a recruitment tactic. Real-world organised crime groups, gangs and extremist organisations often target individuals who feel alienated or undervalued. They offer a family that promises loyalty, shared purpose and protection. The Sicilian Mafia calls itself La Famiglia. Biker gangs use brotherhood in their names. Cults refer to themselves as communities or families to break down resistance and create emotional bonds quickly. The tactic works best on people with fewer connections outside the group, and in Oblivion, your character starts the game with no family, no friends, and no deep ties to Cyrodiil society. The Fighters and Mages guilds might give you a job, but the Brotherhood gives you a home. It's not just words. The Brotherhood shares resources. There are beds in the sanctuary free to use. Lockboxes are filled with gear, poisons, and alchemical ingredients for contracts. Senior members give you personal tips to help you succeed. Even when you mess up, failing a bonus objective say, you're rarely shamed. Ochiva or Vincente will tell you to try harder next time, but your place in the family is never in question. That kind of unconditional acceptance is intoxicating. And the more time you spend in the sanctuary, the more you start to believe that the Brotherhood's rules aren't just orders, they are traditions. In sociology, this is part of what's called identity fusion, when your personal identity becomes so deeply entwined with the group's identity that defending the group feels like defending yourself. Once fused, members are more likely to take extreme actions to protect the group, even at great personal risk. By the time the purification quest rolls around, that bond is exactly why it hurts so much. But we're about to get to that. The charm in tragedy. The Cheydinhal Sanctuary feels safe, until the game rips it away from you. You're summoned by Ochiva and told to report to Lucien Lachance, who informs you of a disaster. Someone in the Dark Brotherhood is a traitor, and the Black Hand has ordered a purification. That's the Brotherhood's polite term for kill everyone inside and start over. And here's the gut punch. They don't tell you who the traitor is. You're ordered to wipe out the entire sanctuary. Your sanctuary. One by one, you have to kill the people you've trained with, eaten with, and joked with. Vincent Voltieri, who may have been the closest thing you had to a mentor. Ochiva, who trusted you from the moment you walked in. Tinava, who shared his life story with you. Even Mirage Dar, irritating as he was, still felt like part of the fabric of the place. The game doesn't treat this as a casual mission. You're moving through familiar rooms, now filled with suspicion and sorrow. Each kill feels wrong, and the game wants you to feel that way. From a narrative design standpoint, The Purification is a masterclass in using player attachment against them. You've spent hours building trust with these NPCs, learning their quirks and benefiting from their support. You might have asked Vincente Voltieri to share his dark gift with you. You might have helped Tinava extract revenge on Scartail. Hell, even Mirage Dar apologizes for being an ass and is now being nice to you.
Well, I guess I just want to say I'm sorry for the way I've treated you in the past.
Now the game forces you to destroy them, not because you've turned on them, but because your loyalty to the Brotherhood demands it. This taps into a psychological phenomenon known as cognitive dissonance, the discomfort you feel when your actions contradict your beliefs. Leon Festinger's 1957 theory explains that when we can't change our actions, we tend to change our beliefs to justify them. In this case, players might rationalize, if Lucien ordered it, it must be necessary, even though they know it's wrong. History is full of betrayals within families like this. In the Sicilian Mafia, suspected informants are often killed not after a trial, but on the word of a trusted superior. Sometimes innocents die to send a message. Cult leaders have been known to purge entire inner circles when paranoia takes hold. In Jonestown, Jim Jones ordered the deaths of his followers during the final hours, simply because he feared betrayal. In the Soviet Union's Great Purge, longtime allies were executed overnight after being branded enemies of the state. Not for anything they did, but because someone higher up declared it so. The emotional damage from these betrayals is often worse than the physical harm. Former gang members and ex-cultists frequently describe feelings of grief similar to bereavement after such events, because they've lost not just comrades, but an entire support system. When you return to Lucien after completing the purification, you're praised for your loyalty. But the sanctuary is gone forever. The hub that felt like home is now an empty memory, and your only real tie to the Brotherhood is now Lucien himself. This is a deliberate narrowing of your social circle. In-group loyalty becomes laser-focused on one or two surviving figures, making you more dependent on them than ever. It mirrors real-world tactics where, after a purge, leaders consolidate power by becoming the sole source of validation for the survivors. And, just when you've started to rebuild your trust, Oblivion hits you with another twist. Lucien himself is accused of treachery and murdered by the rest of the Black Hand. No matter how deep your loyalty runs, in the Brotherhood, stability is an illusion. If this had happened to a real-world person, there's a chance they'd report feeling even more attached to the Brotherhood after the purification. This paradox is explained by what psychologists call traumatic bonding, a strong emotional attachment that develops between people when there are intermittent periods of reward and abuse. Patrick Carnes described it in the context of abusive relationships, but it applies here too. The purification forces you through a shared trauma with the Brotherhood's leadership. The sanctuary is gone, the family is dead, but the bond, twisted as it is, feels stronger than ever. And that's the real magic trick. The game makes you grieve for people you were never supposed to like, and then uses that grief to keep you invested in a guild of murderers. So, why is the Dark Brotherhood gaming's most charming evil? Because Oblivion doesn't just give you a murder guild. It gives you a recruitment method that makes you feel chosen, an aesthetic that makes you feel elegant, contracts that make you feel clever, a family that makes you feel loved, and a tragedy that makes you feel loyal. It's a dangerous cocktail. Scarcity makes you want in, style makes you stay, puzzle-like contracts make you proud, belonging makes you loyal, loss makes you cling even tighter. It's the same formula that's worked for pirates, mobsters, cult leaders, and every fictional anti-hero we've ever loved. Except in the Elder Scrolls, the Daedra actually are real. So maybe the Night Mother really is watching you sleep. Comforting thought. Oblivion shows us that evil doesn't need to be justified to be appealing. It just needs to make you feel special, skilled, and understood. By the time you finish the Dark Brotherhood questline, you're not thinking, wow, that was messed up. You're thinking, I kind of missed them. If nothing else, it proves that in games, as in life, morality is a lot more flexible when the lighting is good, the people are nice to you, and the pay is better than the Fighters Guild. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Tamriel's deadliest charmers, I want to know, what should I cover next? Should we look at the Thieves Guild and why crime feels more like commerce, the Mages Guild's slightly shady magical monopolies, or something outside Oblivion entirely? Drop your ideas in the comments. I read them all, I take notes, and occasionally I do what I'm told. See you next time.